Hello, this is Kathy Rosebud Jonas, licensed clinical social worker and licensed facilitator from Epic Healing Eugene and Radiant Heart Consulting.
And I'm Heather Shelton, retired nurse and licensed facilitator here at Epic Healing Eugene and Radiant Heart Consulting as well.
Today we have some questions that we'd like to address that we've been asked. And this first question is on dosage. What's the difference between a milligram dosage and gram dosage?
Okay, so we do get this question a lot because in the unlicensed settings of psilocybin, people are dosing their mushrooms on how many grams of dried mushrooms someone is taking. We are so lucky here in our licensed setting to have laboratory testing of our mushrooms. And so we do serve full dried mushrooms here. That is what people receive when they come for their psilocybin session. But our mushrooms have been tested at the laboratory so that we know how much psilocybin analate, it's called, how much psilocybin is actually in each gram of mushroom.
And what does that mean regarding potency?
So it's really, really important because here's why. Some varieties of mushrooms may have 5 milligrams of psilocybin per gram of mushroom. So in your recreational setting with your dried grams of mushrooms, you might eat 2 or 3 grams of mushrooms. You also might have some mushrooms over here that have 20 milligrams of psilocybin per gram of mushroom. So if you unknowingly decide to have 2 or 3 grams of this mushroom, you're going to have about 60 milligrams of psilocybin, which is a vastly different experience. So in our past lives, when we mostly had grams of mushrooms, it was difficult to know what type of experience someone might have because we didn't have the information on the milligrams inside the mushrooms. Did that come out pretty clear, Kathy?
Yeah.
Okay,
so,
good.
So I'm thinking about in my previous life of experimenting in the underground is sometimes I would take like a golden teacher and it seemed like maybe I would get really altered and other times I wouldn't get altered. Or else sometimes I'd take a different varietal and I'd have a different effect. So how would one know?
Well, that's one of the challenges in the underground market is that it's very difficult to know how much psilocybin is in the mushroom. And so it's something that we really appreciate here in our legalized setting is that we do get to know how many milligrams of psilocybin are in the mushrooms.
So what about research settings? What are they doing in research settings?
Good question. So in research settings, absolutely, the researchers are using milligrams of mushrooms. So mushrooms are being tested or they're using synthetic psilocybin, but either way they're using a milligram dose. And so we have that luxury here of having milligram dosing and being able to have a pretty good idea of the effects that someone may feel with the dosing that we're offering. So kind of with that, I think I'm going to actually segue into another question for you, Kathy, which comes up often for us as well. If in the kind of underground world, people are familiar of having 5 grams of mushrooms for a heroic dose. How do we do that here if we're not actually working with grams of mushrooms, we're working with milligrams?
Well, I'll segue with that in research and clinical settings, what's been researched most and what is being seen in these, newspaper articles, different articles online is most often a 25 milligram dosage of psilocybin analate, that's the potency dosage, is being used. So that's 25 milligrams, which can be considered to be heroic dose. Now it can be more than that, or it can be for different people less than that. But generally in our setting, generally 30 milligrams seems to be our average dosage.
Yeah. I would say between 25 and 30 milligrams tends to be kind of the first dose. And let's talk a little bit about why someone might actually need a higher dose than 25 milligrams.
And also a lower.
Or a lower dose,
Yes.
absolutely, right? So there's a lot of variety and variation here in the state of Oregon. Well, here in our service center, we have a low dose session, which is from 9 to 14 milligrams of mushrooms, and then anything 15 milligrams and higher is considered a high dose session.
And that high dose actually goes up to 50 milligrams, which is a lot of mushrooms for most people.
It is.
Yeah.
And really, even in the beginning of this, we did not offer up to 50 milligrams.
No, we
because
didn't.
we like to make sure we're safe and that we're making smart decisions, especially if they involve other people.
So we used to limit it to 35 milligrams in our setting, which is still 10 milligrams higher than research and clinical settings. But we wanted to get and we did it for almost 2 years of doing a cap on the 35 milligrams. Now we will go up to 50 milligrams, which the Oregon does allow, but under certain circumstances. So go ahead, Heather. When would we do that?
Yeah, so there's a couple different reasons. I would say the most common reason is that someone is on a certain pharmaceutical that may create some blunting of the experience. And we know that there are certain medications that can produce blunting. The thing is that it's not for everyone across the board. This is very individual work, the psilocybin work. So what we have now, which we have been doing for about a year, is we offer something called a booster dose. So for folks who might be on a pharmaceutical that has the potential for blunting, we still feel like 25 and 30 milligrams is a good dose to start, because not everyone's going to have the blunting effect.
Yeah, research has found that,
Yeah.
is that just because somebody's on an SSRI or an SNRI, is that it doesn't mean that a person's guaranteed to have a blunting or a dulling effect
Right.
of it. And that doesn't mean that the person isn't going to still have psychological or neuroplastic benefits
For sure.
by taking the dosage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a whole even other
Yeah.
video.
Yeah.
So if someone is on one of these medications, we're concerned there could be blunting, we'll still likely start around that same dosage and then have the option for a booster dose. And what a booster dose is something that someone decides on before they consume any mushrooms. It's a decision that is made between a client and their facilitator, and each person is approached in a very individual way. So we do not have hard and fast dosing rules, I'll just say that. But if someone would like to have the option of a booster, then they'll have purchase all their mushrooms at once, consume that first dose, and then wait a little while and let's
Like 40
see.
minutes, 45 minutes.
Yeah. And then your facilitator checks in about 45 minutes to see how are you, because we don't want to give someone more mushrooms if they don't need them, right? This isn't about how high can we get. And so if someone is experienced blunting, maybe they aren't really feeling those mushrooms much at all, then they have the option to go ahead and take their booster. And we have had some folks who do need up to the 50 milligram dose, but it's not that frequent.
It's not. It's
Yeah.
more rare that a person does. Or there's other reasons besides medication.
Let's talk about some of those, Kathy.
And these are what are in a broad category of calling resistant factors. So a person might take more than a 25 milligram dosage because they just can't get lift off. Their mind's too busy. They got protective parts of self. And what happens is a person holds on to the psychedelic shore and kind of just they're afraid or nervous or hesitant, and there could be a variety of reasons for that. And part of that is, if a person doesn't feel safe in the environment. Now we've created quite a safe environment here, so that's helpful, is to have enough preparation ahead of time to help somebody
Preparation
relax
is
and
very important for sure. Yeah, and I would say too sometimes but some of us like to really have a lot of control. We want to control our environment, we want to control ourselves, we just like to kind of know what's going to happen. And you know, part of these experiences is that we're stepping into something that's a little unknown, and so that can be difficult for some people. And so sometimes folks who really like to have a sense of being in charge of things might need a little bit more mushrooms too, to be able to really fully relax. So, and this is how individual it is, right?
Yeah.
We really want to talk with each person. Some of the things we talked about is, does it matter if maybe I'm larger than you are, Kathy? I'm quite a bit taller than you are. I have a bigger frame. So does that mean that I need more mushrooms than you do?
I would say probably not. I know I take more mushrooms than Heather does. But it has to do with how experienced a person is in taking psychedelics, how comfortable is a person to really explore their inner world. And for some people that's really new. It's new material to work with, to go inward. So and also sometimes those higher dosages may result more in a release or purging effect, that things get really stirred up. So there's, again, all these kind of variables are discussed during preparation to make sure that dosage is a good decision.
Definitely.
But here's another question for you.
Okay.
Is some people wonder about, like say a 250-pound man compared to a 120-pound female. What would you recommend on dosage then? What kind of difference? What does research say, Heather?
Well, research actually says that we don't necessarily dose on someone's weight or size.
Why is that?
Our brains are pretty much the same size. That research has shown that there's going to be a couple little ounces difference between our brains, but that because psilocybin is working on our serotonin receptors, that the size of our whole physical being is not as important.
Yeah.
So that is really fascinating, because that's not how we do it with a lot of other medicines, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's also, let's see, something that we found in our setting, because psilocybin does stir things up, and for some people this emotional contact might result in people having some kind of purging phenomenon, such as a lot of crying or actually feeling nausea. And so we want to minimize nausea being part of a variable from taking this psilocybin in the first place. So part of what we do is we offer psilocybin, the primary dose, in the form of called lemon teching. So lemon juice is added to ground mushrooms. The person grinds them in a coffee grinder after they've said hello to the mushrooms, so the mushrooms don't mind being ground up, But lemon juice is added, and it's going to sit there for like 15-20 minutes, and it's going to convert itself from psilocybin to psilocin, that psychoactive component that actually is going to get you high. And so depending on the dosage that we talked about, is that sometimes the mushroom varietal, you don't have to take very much. And that can lessen nausea for those people that are more concerned about maybe having that effect.
Yes. But I would say that the lemon tech has been incredibly helpful at minimizing nausea for people.
Oh, yes.
too. Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and the other thing that the lemon tech method does is it makes the arc of the experience very predictable as far as time. So when a person consumes, like say that they consume at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be probably around 12 o'clock, 12:15, that they're going to reach the peak of the psychedelic mountain, and then it'll come down in waves, and about 1:30 the journey is going to be kind of like, oh, am I still under the influence here, but a person can get a few more waves, and by the time they're ready to leave at around 4 o'clock, they're back, you know. So it makes it a cleaner, maybe more a steeper climb initially, but kind of a cleaner descent that people are able to start to integrate and, you know, get back to their Airbnb and have dinner
Get
and all those things.
grounded.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else on dosage?
Let's see. What else might we want to say? We might just have a little quick moment to talk about the difference between microdosing and
Okay.
macrodosing, because
Yeah.
that's something that seems to come up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that off the bat, the first thing I would like to say is that what we offer here is called macrodosing. So we do not offer microdosing here in our service center. For a variety of reasons. One is that we have a very small service center. We are really committed to offering these high dose individual experiences, and so that's our priority. The other piece is that I would say, you know, we know that microdosing is not as well researched as these higher doses of psilocybin, and I'm not saying that it's not helpful. I know very many anecdotal stories where it has been helpful for people. I have benefited myself from having some microdosing, but what we offer here is this macrodosing.
Yeah, and so microdosing is about 1/10 to 1/20th of a standard dose of mushrooms. That is usually like sub-perceptual. It's below. It should be. You shouldn't be seeing little sparkly colors and lights and that kind of thing. But you might have a little more focus and attention, a little more energy. But that's really individual to the person. And it takes a long time. It's taken, you know, a couple times a week over a long period of time. And for most people, the effect's not seen until like a month later. Versus the macro dosing that we do from the 9 milligrams up to 50 milligrams. It's more supported in research, and this is where people are able to experience more of a shift. And that's what most people are coming for, is to experience a shift.
Because they're ready for change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for tuning into this video on Dosage. And if you'd like to learn more about our services, please visit EpicHealingEugene.com.
.com.
Yeah. Take good care.
Care.